welcome to another edition of the What a Ball Ache podcast with myself, Gary. Today I'm joined by Carl. How are you doing, Carl? You all right?
Very good, man. How are you?
Aye, not bad, mate. Not bad. First time on the show. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
It's an honour.
So today we're going to discuss like England breakout stars, players who potentially could get into the Euros team this year, and then going forward the next World Cup team. What I'm going to do, Carl, is I'm going to let you start with your first pick.
Okay. Do you want me to go 5-1, or are we just going 1-5?
Just your five players who you think will break in the England team.
Okay. Well, I think the first obvious one to speak about is Philip Walter FODEN of Manchester City. I just think this guy's the future of England. He's been sort of knocking around for a few years, and there was part of me starting to wonder, when's he going to break in? But he's still only 20 years old. It seems like he's been around for a good few years, and I think part of his development's been Guardiola, that he hasn't rushed him in, keeping his feet on the ground and not playing him too early. But he's already a double Premier League winner, FA Cup, I think 3 League Cups. He's done that before his 21st birthday. It's just absolutely remarkable. He's looking at his stats. He looks like he used to play a sort of wing back and winger, but Guardiola came out himself and said he's more of a midfielder, which I think is absolutely right, and that's why they call him the stock put Iniesta, aren't they? I can only see him adding to these stats over the years. But I mean, the thing is, he doesn't even need to. A few of my other players will come on to. It's basically questions of, will they need a bigger move in their career? He doesn't need that. He's happy at City. He can just stay at City for as long as he wants and be as successful as he wants at City. But did he make your list?
He did. He was the first person I had on my list as well. I think he is going to be the future golden boy of the England team. I think he's going to slot into probably a centre mid role, going forward. I mean, he's only 20 years old, so he's got a massive future ahead of him. And like you say, Guardiola has done exactly the right thing there by bleeding him into the team gently. Which I think is the right thing to do. But I had him in my list as well. So what I'll do is I'll go for now who's going to be my next player, who I think is going to break in the England team and be a prominent figure going forward. Bukayo Saka. I think Saka, fantastic player. I think he's standing out as the big player in the Arsenal team at the minute. He's so young as well. Plenty of ability. Looking at his stats as well, he plays as a winger, but he actually played for the England under-21s as a left back. To be quite honest, left back is where England isn't as strong. So could I see him in the England team? Yeah, I could. Maybe as a left back going forward. But I just think he's been a shining light for Arsenal. When they've needed one, when they haven't been as consistent as they probably could. What's your thoughts on Saka?
He was definitely in my thoughts as well. 19 years old. He's not 20 till September this year. He's really coming to his own this season at Arsenal. He was absolutely fantastic against Benfica this week with 2 assists. Big assist for that late winner. To go obviously with the away goal rule, to go from losing that tie, being knocked out, to actually progressing. And he's got some good step overs, and there's far too many footballers in the world who have pointless step overs. Even Ronaldo's guilty of it. Pointless step overs that just look good, not do anything. And he's got good step overs. He did a good little step over, drop the shoulder to dink back inside and dink that ball to the back post for Aubameyang to win that tie. And his pass for Aubameyang's first goal was absolutely sensational. Just did the whole defence with the eyes, timed it perfectly. Just a little reverse pass, perfect weight to make Aubameyang look like the player we know he can be.
He got 2 assists, didn't he? He got 2 assists.
He was basically playmaker for Arsenal in that tie. Filling the role that hasn't really been filled for Arsenal since Mesut Ozil was obviously taken out of the picture.
I mean, I think the benefit with Saka is he's willing to play on any wing, and if he's been playing left back for England under 21s, I think he'll play as a left back. He'll play even as a right full back, I reckon. Which I think that'll be a massive benefit of Saka potentially being in any kind of future England teams. I do think he's going to be a prominent figure in any kind of 23-man squad, much like Phil Foden. Will he start? I'm not 100% sure, but because he's got versatility all over the pitch, I think it puts him in a good
Absolutely,
position.
versatility is the key there.
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate can pick him, knowing that he can play on the wing or as a left back. He's utility players. It really benefits you when it comes to picking your squad. If you've got a man who can do really well, decent job in two positions, he's got such an advantage. But I don't think this Euros is the be all and end all for him. He's only 19. He's not going to be 20 till after the summer.
Yeah,
it might be too soon for him, but I wouldn't complain for a second if he was taken.
Same. I think he's a fantastic talent. I think he's going to be brilliant going forward for England and obviously for Arsenal. Because they've already rewarded him basically by giving him a number 7 shirt for this season, so they'll obviously see him as a long-term prospect for them. So which is class. But yeah, moving on though, mate. Who have you got next?
Okay, my next player does have 18 caps for England already, but he is still only 20 years old, and that is Dortmund's Jadon Sancho.
I knew as soon as you said 18 caps, I knew it was Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, 18 caps and 3 goals. He probably should have a few more goals for England, but his form for Dortmund's been superb. He's actually got 35 goals in 98 appearances for Dortmund, so that's better than 1 in 3, which he's not as an out-and-out striker. That's fantastic, and I think he's got almost as many assists as well. His assists, he's pretty much one of them 50-50 goal and assist players, isn't he? Gets as many assists as he gets goals. But yeah, he's got everything going from fast, skillful, and just seems to have a good football brain. And he's a bit like Sancho. He's at the perfect place. He's at Dortmund, and Dortmund are a fantastic club, fantastic stadium. Had the pleasure of going and seeing a match live there myself, and honestly, nothing compares to it. It's an unbelievable place to play, which is why when I see him with Man United, nothing against Man United, but I just think why would he want to go to Man United? I know they showed glimpses of being title contenders this year, but that dream died as quickly as it was born. So for me, just stay where he is, keep doing what he's doing. With a fantastic setup around him, and I think he's a shoo-in for the Euros. Don't think there's any chance he's not going to be going to the Euros.
Makes you wonder though, what did Man City not see in him to keep him? Why did they let him go?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, a club like Dortmund comes in the off. Dortmund have got quite a few good English-born players there. Unfortunately, not all going to play for us. Haaland, born in Leeds, obviously with his dad there. We've got Claudio Reyna's son as well.
Gio.
So if has he placed his allegiance to the US? Or
I think he will be. Yeah, I mean, one player who I had in my list as well, obviously touching on Dortmund, I had him in my list as an honourable mention going forward. Jude Bellingham. Like they've spent 20 odd million on him for a reason, and they have a good record of bringing through youth to Dortmund. So that's what they've done with
The
Sancho.
reason I don't have Jude Bellingham on my list is that the only thing I really know about him is he was signed for a lot of money from Birmingham. Now that's on me. I haven't seen enough of him playing, but as you say, they've paid that money for a reason.
Yeah, he's not included in my top 5. He's an honourable mention. He's only 17 years old, but
yeah, definitely. As ridiculous as it was that Birmingham felt the need to retire his shirt, that's just the most stupid thing I've ever heard. But again, I think this Euros will probably come too soon for him. I think if they take him, it'll be a mistake at the expense of somebody who should have gone other than him.
Yeah.
Which England have made. They've made that mistake for years. They took Theo Walcott to the wrong World Cup and then didn't take him to the right World Cup. That's the sort of thing England do. So you don't want to trash these young players' confidence by taking them to World Cups when they're not ready for Euros.
Yeah.
He's at Dortmund. they'll look after him and see how he gets on.
Cool. Right, I'll go for my next one because all the players that I have on my list have less than 10 caps. There is obviously fantastic players out there, but I wanted to specifically pick players who have less than 10 caps. So the next one I'm going for, who I think stands a really good chance of getting in the Euros and any team going forward, James Maddison. Only been capped by England once, been a fantastic signing for Leicester. He's now like chipping in with quite a few goals, so it's not just on Vardy's onus. And like he's a dead ball player as well. Like he's made massive waves in that Leicester team.
Yeah, definitely. The irony is he's probably not having as a strong a season as he did the season before last, where he was absolutely superb. He's always going to be knocking on the England door. Scores goals, gets forward well. Very much. He's 24, so he's a bit older. Not that I'm saying 24 is old, but he's a bit older than the rest of the players on the list we've gone through so far. We're looking at 17 to 21-year-olds. So he hasn't hit his prime yet. He very much could be an England star.
Yeah, I mean, the players that we've all spoke about, all four of them so far, and if you're talking about Jude Bellingham before 17 years old, probably does have a future for England come 5-6 years time. All midfielders, so it makes you think like we've got a really good midfield setup. We're gonna have a lot of choice in midfield in the coming years, which is class.
Essentially, too much choice. England have suffered from how do we fit Gerrard and Lampard into the same team? Where does Scholes play? Why is Scholes retiring from England much earlier than he should be? It has been sometimes we've almost had too much talent in one position and not enough elsewhere. So as much as it's great to see all these great young midfielders coming through, you're already thinking about how do we get them all in there?
Yeah. So we've covered Foden, Saka, Sancho, and Maddison. Who's your third?
I've got Mason Greenwood. So Mason Greenwood, again, one of these players that's been knocking around for a few years, but he's still only 19. He's not 20 till October either. And I don't think he's reached his potential yet. He's a little bit... Sometimes he's very frustrating to play. He's losing the ball. He's trying too hard. But when he's on form, he's terrifying. Pace to burn. He's a very fast player, which is the one thing that you can't teach. Opposition can't teach the defence to defend against. As a footballer, most footballers are as fast as they're going to be. They're as fit as they should be, pretty much, and they will be running at what is their top speed. You can't get faster if you've got Greenwood running away from you. You can't do anything about it. And the reason he's in there is I like the way he finishes. He finishes really well to the bottom corner. He's not looking for stupid finesse curls into the top corner, which look brilliant, but actually are really easy for keepers to save and keep to make a save look good with TV save. The hardest place for goalkeeper to save is hard and low in the bottom corners. And that's what I've seen too, time for time, again, from Man United, just hitting them bottom corners within a foot to 2 foot of the post, and the keepers just can't get down to them. I think he's probably, looking at my list again, I think he's probably got the best goal scoring potential on there. I think there's a lot of creativity in the other players we've mentioned so far, but I think Greenwood could be a real goal scorer. So it'd be interesting to see. He's down as a forward. I know he plays out in the wing a lot, but he could be coming out and out goal scoring. He could be a 20-goal season Premier League player.
Yeah, that's what I was going to lead into. Where do you play him in the England team? Do you play him out wide, or do you play him as a false nine, or do you play him as an out-and-out forward?
I think he needs to be on the wing, or as a forward, part of a front three. But the problem we're going to have getting a lot of these players developed into an England squad is which of the established players do you take out? Currently, Kane's a shoe-in. You can't see Kane being knocked out by anyone if he's fit up front. Sterling's pretty much assuring. So then it's, where do you get these attacking players in? I feel the best chances these players behind, like FODEN, who I know he's already getting England games. FODEN and Mount, they could really cement down central midfield positions in the England setup.
Yeah, nah, totally agree. Next player I'm gonna go for. I'm gonna try and steer away from the attacking side of things now. And I'm gonna go. He's 25, 24, 25, but he's never really had a proper chance in the fold because he's suffered really badly with injuries. I'm gonna go Luke Shaw. He's been fantastic for Man U this season. I think Alex Tellez coming in has really helped him stay fit and really press for his place. I think Luke Shaw. I think that's where we lack us an England team left back at the moment. Who we've got? We've got Chilwell. We've got Shaw, Danny Rose. Saka could come in and play at left back. There isn't much choice in the left back position as per the right back position.
As much as I love Danny Rose, I think his England career's sort of played out as much as it's going to be. I can't see him get himself back in there. But yeah, Luke Shaw this season shown the sort of form that, was the reason Man United paid Southampton all that money, 13 million, which was then a world record fee for a teenager. Interesting, didn't know that.
And a lot of those have came from Southampton, ironically.
Yeah. He's 25. To be honest, I thought he was older. He's been around for a long time, and he's had a couple of horrific injuries as well. So yeah, the form he's playing in this season, I think you're probably right. He's looking good for at least place in the squad and possibly starting left back.
I mean, we have such a lack of competition at left back now, as unlike right back where we have so many I don't want to say half decent, but we have a lot of good prospects at right back. Obviously, long term, Trent Arnold's going to be he's going to be the front runner at right back. But there's a lot of competition there as well, which we might go into as well later on. But I think Luke Shaw is just like this season. He's having a cracking season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he stays fit. And I think he can take the left. Well, I think it'll be him, Saka, and Chilwell maybe fighting over the left back slot if we can't fit Saka in midfield.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't argue with Luke Shaw being taken as first choice left back and Saka getting into the squad on the back of the fact he can play a left back, which means you don't then need to take a second out and out left back, which means the likes of Chilwell, Danny Rose are going to miss out. But it does give you more options to take an extra striker, take some more attacking players, take some more creative midfield players, somebody a bit different. We've already got Kane. He's a big man up front. Sometimes it's nice to have used to always love having Peter Crouch in the squad, just because if the game plan wasn't working, we were chasing a goal towards the end of the game. Right, totally different style of play. We're going to chuck on Crouch and deal with that as we chuck in long balls towards him. So I think taking Shaw, having Saka there with the ability to play left back if needed, because I think you do need backup for Shaw. Because unfortunately, coming back from blade breaks, you are always going to be prone to further injuries, which I really hope he doesn't. No footballer deserves to go through what he's gone through already.
Yeah,
I wish him a long, injury-free rest of his career, if possible. But I think you always need to make sure you've got backup for him in case the worst happens.
Definitely. So, who have you got at fourth there, then, Carl? I've just changed my list as we're on air, because I've gone down the same line you were going down, and thinking we were actually being really attacking. So I was going to talk about Eze at Crystal Palace, but instead I'm going to totally change direction, and I'm going to go for a defender, because I think we need we can't have just all young forward players coming through. We need some good defenders, and it's a player who's not going to make the Euros this year. We're talking about the future of England going forward. 23 years old, unfortunately he's had a bad injury this year, but that's Joe Gomez, who really is coming into his own, obviously alongside Virgil van Dijk, neither of them playing at the moment, and
Liverpool are struggling. Liverpool are really struggling this year, and you can blame the injuries, yes, but it's more the weakness because of injuries in one position, and that is just the defence generally.
Yeah.
They were so solid, they were so hard to break down, which gave the players up front the freedom to, express themselves and just run away with the league. I mean, they did run away with the league. Yeah, they almost there was a time last season where we were talking about them going unbeaten, and then they got hammered. But who hammered them?
Villa. Villa absolutely turned them over, didn't they?
Yeah, and then they end up losing a few games. But at that point, they won the league anyway. City stuttered as well. But yeah, I think in terms of future of England, Joe Gomez has the ability to lock down first choice centre back for the next 5-8 years.
Do you see him as a future England captain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even Liverpool captain for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, centre backs. First of all, you as a centre back, you're in a brilliant position to be a captain because you're watching the game in front of you. You're obviously organising the defence, and any good centre back, which he is organising the defence. And you'll probably see him shouting as much as you see Van Dijk shouting. They've got to speak to their midfielders where they want them, their fullbacks. So yeah, very much, absolutely could be a Liverpool and England captain in years to come.
So let's say Joe Gomez is a slot in to be England defence. Who's he playing with? Who's his partner?
I think that's where we're not talking about future stars at the moment. I think we're looking at established English players. So, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have a 30-plus-year-old central defender.
Yeah.
As long as you've got cover for them in terms of pace, if they come up against Mbappe, you need somebody who's got pace, which Gomez does have decent pace for centre back. So yeah, I don't think we're talking about any future England stars here. I think unfortunately, which is unfortunate. I think in terms of centre back, he's really the only one I'm looking at now, thinking real future England star. But all it takes is for another player to have a breakthrough season next year, and we're all talking about him being future centre back captain of England. Whoever gets promoted this year, they could easily bring up a young centre back who next season just shows he's one of the best in the Premier League. So it's one of them funny positions, centre back, where you can fall from grace as fast as you can get there. Harry Maguire was the best thing since sliced bread a few years ago when Man United signed him. These days he's ridiculed, which I think is unfair. I think he's a good player, Harry Maguire. But he does make mistakes, and the English press love to slay players as much as they love to get behind them. It's one of the reasons why I think we do so poorly in tournaments. The press really does have to take the blame for the way they treat English stars.
No, I agree with that. Right, next one, I'm going to go back to my attacking routes. So I'm going to go, obviously I slotted in Luke Shaw instead of this person, but now I'm going to go to this person who I think, he's 25 years old. I do think he's going to be part of the England fold, most likely going to the Euros. I do think he's going to get in. Ollie Watkins. He's been fantastic for Villa, and he's worth the money that they've paid.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pressure when you've been signed for that sort of money. But yeah, I mean, the season he had last season, it was like, this guy needs to be in the Premier League next year, whether that was going up or being transferred. It's almost a shame when it has to come on the back of a transfer.
Yeah,
I like young players to come up with the club they've been brought up with. They've pulled the team up, and and then they start in the Premier League in some familiar surroundings without the pressure of that price tag. Which many players crumble under, but he hasn't. He's a goal scorer, which is just the goals win games, and he knows where the back of the net is.
Oh, 100%.
So
he's a cycle finisher.
Will he go to the Euros? I think he's going to be one of them players who's going to be on the borderline, and it could fall either way for him.
Yeah, but
I'd like to see him go.
Who's our next goal scorer after Kane in a centre forward position? Because we're going to play Sterling as a winger. That's how we would play him. Whereas Sterling has been playing a lot up front for Man City. I mean, is he going to make the choice between Kane or Sterling? I don't think he will. I think he'll make a choice to play Kane and Sterling, but Sterling out on the wing.
Yeah, I think if they're both fit, they both have to play.
Yeah.
I can see he's been favouring that 4-3-3, which can quickly drop back to 4-5-1 if we're on the back foot. But when it's a 4-3-3, I think you've got to have Sterling on the left there and Kane up front. I mean, Sterling can play both wings, but I wouldn't mind if the game's not going our way and we need to change formation. 4-4-2 with Sterling and Kane up front.
Yeah,
they're a really good front two as a 4-4-2, almost an old-fashioned big man, little man.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see if Brentford got promoted for this season and seeing BMW up front, like Ben Rama, Macondes and Watkins. I think that would have been a good front three. How they would have done the Premiership, that would have been interesting to see. But I think it's a fantastic signing for Villa. Like, really cemented their centre forward position going forward for years to come, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, and Villa are having a brilliant season as well.
They've got a lot of good English players as well.
I mean, if we want to stick on Villa for a second, I know we're going to go way past 5 players each here, but again, a little bit older. But I think you've got to talk about Jack Grealish as England prospect.
Yeah, I mean, I had him as part of my list as well. Jack Grealish. He's when you look at him, he's brilliant at going forward. I mean, to be quite honest, he loves to get a good foul, doesn't he? Whether that be legit or unlegitimate by diving, maybe. It's what he does.
He does get kicked to bits. I mean, yeah, you could. There will be an element of looking for fouls, going down. But I mean, I think he was by far the most fouled player in the Premier League. He was like way ahead of second place. I think he was. I saw one list where he was the most fouled and one of the most fouling players as well. So he's basically. I mean, he scores goals. He's an attacking midfielder, really.
Yeah.
But he's also a battling midfielder, so he can get back and put fuss in himself. So I mean, that's another one who he is injured at the moment. He's definitely out of this game at the weekend. I think they're playing Leeds this weekend. But he's definitely been ruled out for that game. It'd be interesting to see how long he's out for. If he can get himself back in fully fit before the end of the season, which I think he should do. Then yeah, he's got a real chance of being picked by Gareth.
Definitely. I mean, again, if you're looking at Aston Villa's team for British players, they've got Ezri Konsa, Tyrone Mings, Matty Cash, Matthew Targett. They've got so many English players in that team. That's just the back line, who could potentially give or take do a job for England. Maybe not in the Euros as such, or even a World Cup, but they could come in if there's serious injuries to the bigger players, so to speak.
Yeah, and Grealish, a player we've managed to prize away from the Republic of Ireland, representing them at under 17, 18 and 21 level before switching to allegiance to England. So some good work by the powers that be there.
Defo. So who's the 5th player you've got to look out for?
I think I've got past 5, but I've got one more on my list which we haven't spoke about. Which I think this one, I don't think it's quite a finished article yet. I think there's potential there, and that is Eze at Palace. He's already been playing alongside him, but he's been compared to Wilfried Zaha. Now, I think he needs to surpass Wilfried Zaha. As much as I like Zaha, he's a great, skillful player. He's getting on now. I don't think he's ever reached his full potential. Another player that moved to Man United for a lot of money didn't work out for, which is why I made my points before with Jadon Sancho and throw Grealish into the mix here. Both players that have been linked with Man United in the last few years and haven't made the move. That I don't see going to Man United as being a great move for young players anymore. They do seem to be signing a lot of young promising players, and their careers then stalling at that point. Saying Harry Maguire now isn't as highly rated as he was. Lucas Shaw's only on his form this year, and I know the injuries come into there as well, but he's getting back to the form that we knew he was capable of before it moved to Man U. I think Well, we were talking about Eze, weren't we?
Eze,
so we went on I went on the Wilfred Zaha, but Eze, really skillful player. Was fantastic at QPR last year. A season which was obviously affected by the pandemic, but on the form last season got him his big money move to the Premier League, and I don't think it's the worst place to play Palace. Fantastic fans, Palace. Not the biggest stadium in the Premier League, but not the biggest expectation in the Premier League as well. They struggle at the moment, Palace. I think they're very lucky that they've got plenty of points on the board early season, because I don't think they're going to get quite dragged down to the relegation battle. But they've got horrific injuries at the moment. That's why they're really struggling. But yeah, I think Eze potentially could be one of them players who, in the next few years, could be one to really look out for. I think this Euros be too soon for him. I don't think he'll be in the conversation, but I don't think he'll be a serious candidate to go.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think we're probably going to be looking at more players that are playing for City, Chelsea, United, Arsenal even. I think the players like maybe Watkins, because he plays for Villa, might get left out. Eze, because he plays for Palace, might get left out. Calvin Phillips for Leeds might get left out. But these could be players that have been in the conversation. Well, these are players that have been in conversation, especially Calvin Phillips. Can he go? I don't think they're going to, Southgate's going to look at a team like Leeds and take those kind of players. But I think I've got your 5 there, mate. What I'm going to mention is I think we have gone over 5, but who cares, you know what I mean?
I think we're about 15 English players.
Oh, definitely. But I am going to mention, I've got 2 things for you. All the players we have to play at right back: Tariq Lamptey, Reece James, Wan-Bissaka, Trent Arnold, Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier. There's so many players who can play at right back. Who's going to be the first choice, and who do you think's realistically going to be the second choice?
I think that for me, the 2 of them are Trippier, because he's got the big tournament experience already under his belt. He's playing at a big club, as an Athletic, and I think even though he's having a poor season, I think Trent Alexander, just for his assists, Liverpool's a different beast to what they were last year, and it's noticeable that they're 2 flying wing backs, Trent and Andy Robertson on the other wing. They're both struggling this year, but it's because they haven't got that solid centre back partnership led by Virgil van Dijk, who could pretty much just run a back 4 by himself. You might as well play a 1-7-2 formation with Van Dijk. He's just unbelievable.
7-2.
But I think, but their assists last season, both of them were ridiculous. And he puts in. He's a clever player. He showed that with that quick free kick and quick corner rather against Barcelona. For that amazing comeback. But yeah, he puts in wicked balls from out wide. And I think if he starts to show any sort of form that we know he's got for the end of the season, there may be a little bit of pressure off Liverpool now. Klopp's thrown in the towel. I think everyone pretty much knows they're not going to win the league this year. It's a disappointing defence of their title, but I think winning that first title in 30 years was big for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come back strong next year and serious contenders again. For me, I think my number 1 is I'd go for Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'd probably have Trippier in there as a backup.
Yeah, I think Trent's probably going to be first choice right back, but for me, I'd be going Reece James. I think Southgate likes Reece James, and I think Reece James can play as centre back if you need him to as well. So again,
it comes back to that versatility we spoke about. That can get you into squads over somebody else. Reece James.
That's who
definitely.
I think
he can play in the centre as well. Reece James, 21. So definitely he's been in this conversation of young future of England. Trippier's coming towards the end of his career. Now, one thing Germany, for example, have always been much better at the English at is almost brutal dismissal of older players towards the end of their career. And we're always being a bit sentimental. England, we've wanted to keep players around, ones who've done the business. I mean, obviously with England not in terms of winning trophies, but have certainly done the business at international level. We don't like to unceremoniously kick them off. Germany do. Germany always have a young, exciting squad. There'll be some stalwarts in there, but they're not frightened to drop a World Cup winning player and throw in a 20-year-old. So yeah, this as much as I like Trippier, I would have no problem from going. Maybe the likes of Reece James might get thrown into the tournament team with Gareth Southgate thinking more future. Yeah, we could take Trippier this year, but is he going to go to World Cup in 2 years' time? Well, it's only 1 year time now, isn't it? Or the next Euros? Possibly not likely. I think I'm right in thinking he's in his 30s now, or certainly close to his 30s now, isn't he, Trippier?
I think he's either in them or he's very close to them. Like,
yeah, so yeah, it would be fantastic. And I think Southgate, he has been a breath of fresh air to the England managerial position, and I think he might be more likely to trust in youth and take the younger player. Yeah, he's 30 years old, Trippier. So yeah, I think he certainly might opt for youth where there is a coin toss between two players.
Mint. Any honourable mentions for you?
I did have, when I was first making notes, I had Nketiah at Arsenal. I don't think he's scoring enough goals. I think he's 19. He's still very young. But there's somebody who should be scoring goals. He's not quite scoring enough goals. He's come back into the Arsenal fold now. He's getting some game time, but he's behind some top quality strikers Arsenal have at the moment. Lacazette and Aubameyang, they're both a little bit older, but they are fantastic strikers. That could benefit him. He could be learning from them in training every day. So yeah, I think he's one that's I briefly wrote down, but I just don't think he was quite in the conversation yet.
Yeah, I had Nketiah in. I also had Emile Smith-Rowe as well. The Croydon De Bruyne, I think they call him.
Yes.
He could have a lot of potential to potentially maybe not be a persistent player in the England setup, but he could be a fringe player at least. Just my opinion, but
yeah, with this delayed Euros after the COVID pandemic, I think we've got two big tournaments coming up in 2 years rather than the sort of gap in between now. So I think there's a big chance for every player we've talked about here to really establish themselves, make a name for themselves, get themselves hero status in big games over the next 2 years. By which point, the next World Cup, the next Euros, after that, we might have, real dilemma about bringing in any more young players because there'll be a good group of already young players who've nailed down positions.
Therefore, I mean, again, going into midfield again, Curtis Jones, Liverpool. Like, there's so much potential in the midfield. Like, going forward, that it's quite exciting. But again, Curtis Jones needs game time for Liverpool if he's going to realise that again. Harvey Elliott, he's currently out on loan at Blackburn, 17 years old. He can come in maybe four years down the line. Potentially, he could be a fantastic winger. Even looking, you went to Joe Gomez before. Who's his partner going to be? An aging Harry Maguire. What about Mason Holgate? What about Ben Goffrey? Where do you see them?
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, it's up to these players. They need to take their chances at club level and when given it at international level. But I mean, we spoke about James Maddison before at Leicester, and I mentioned I thought he had a stronger season last season. But I think probably outperformed this year is Harvey Barnes. Another young English player, 23 years old, an established Premier League player. Represented England under 18, under 21 level. He's made one appearance for England as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, another player who's having a strong season. If he continues to have a strong season for the rest of the season, he's going to be knocking on the door as well for the Euros.
One player we both didn't mention, but he's a fantastic player, Dean Henderson. I know why I didn't mention him, because I don't think Pickford's ever going to be unseated from the number one spot because goalkeeper's coming at the prime at the end of the.
You're right. We haven't touched the goalkeeper position, but that's because we're both Mackhams and we love Pickford. I know Pickford's another one of them players who the media are loving to slate at the moment. He's a great shot stopper. He's a fantastic shot stopper. He doesn't command his area as well as possibly other keepers. As far as goalkeepers go, he's slightly vertically challenged, which has its benefits as well as its downfalls. But his distribution's second to none. Now, he had been a bit quiet on his distribution. We used to, when he first got through the Sunderland team and got moved to Everton and was playing for England's, under 21s, then obviously England full team. There used to be almost every week we were seeing an assist for Pickford, picking somebody out on the half volley. And Everton are back in form now, and I have seen over the last few weeks a few times where he's done that sort of, throwing the ball to the side volley with a bit of slice on it, and picking out with Richarlison on the full tilt run. So I think Pickford's delivery is always going to benefit him. And also we come back to that thing, big tournament experience. He's experienced the World Cup. He had a very good World Cup. Produced for Rogues in the penalty shootout against Colombia. Yeah. So I think that's one of them things that really will turn it in his favour. I expect him to keep the number one jersey this summer.
Yeah, that's the only reason I didn't pick Dean Henderson. I think Dean Henderson is a fantastic keeper, and I do think that either he's going to become Man U number one, or he's going to be sold to a team and become a big time player in like goalkeeping in the world. But Pickford, the problem is with Pickford is the media get on his back. Well, not the problem as such. The media get on his back, but he's never failed for England. He has made some bloopers for Everton, but he's never failed for England. That's why I can't see him getting kicked out of his number one spot, to be quite honest.
Yeah, there's we briefly spoke before about the fact that we'd stolen Grealish from Republic of Ireland, but briefly touch on a story in the news this week that we have missed out on a young player. Jamal Musiala.
He's going to represent Germany, isn't he?
He scored a great goal in the Champions League midweek. 18-year-old attacking midfielder, starting and scoring in the Champions League for Bayern. Now, in his defence, he is born in Stuttgart, but he has represented England at under 15-16 level. He also represented Germany under 16. But then he went on to represent England at under 17 and under 21 level. He's announced this week. He did actually post an article explaining his decision, which I don't think he needs to. He can come out and say, I want to play for Germany because I think they're one of the best nations in the world. But he explained his decision, and you've got to respect his decision that he's made. Obviously playing in Germany, born in Germany. You can't really argue with him playing for Germany. But disappointing when he's potentially a future star who we could have had on the roster.
Definitely. I mean, even getting in a Bayern Munich side at his age is quite a feat as well, isn't it, really? So, but I'm going to present you with one last question as well, Carl. Out of all of the prospects for the England setup, and I think I know who you might say, who is the most overrated?
All the most overrated out of all of these future England prospects. Oh, give me a second. Come back to me on that one.
Doesn't have to be anyone we've listed. Yeah, it doesn't have to be anyone that we've listed. I know who I would say, because I don't see the hype around him. Callum Hudson-Odoi. Don't see the hype.
He's we could be proved wrong. We could be ridiculed in 5 years' time. People will dig up this old podcast and go listen to one of these guys rate Hudson-Odoi. But I can't think of anyone I'd like to single out myself who I think is overrated. At this point, I don't think there's anybody really stealing the living and stealing the way into the England team at the moment, which I think is something as a nation we've been guilty of over the years. Yeah. But I think at the moment, Southgate really seems to have his head screwed on right, and players are getting in their own merit.
Yeah. I think for me, just Callum Hudson-Odoi, I would have sold him to Bayern for what, 30 million. The wanted to hold on to him. If he was going to be a prominent part of any Chelsea team, one, why did Chelsea sign Havertz, Ziyech if they wanted to play him? Like, but then they never
Yeah,
played him. Tuchel brought him on and then took him off.
yeah. I mean, Chelsea have got their own issues at the moment. It's a change of manager mid-season. Yeah, I think Chelsea's not. I spoke a lot about clubs that are good places to be at the moment. I think Dortmund's a good place to be. For Foden, City is obviously just the perfect place to be because they can play in a very good squad with good players around them.
Yeah.
Chelsea aren't currently a breathing ground other than Reece James, who we spoke about.
Mason Mount. He's going to be new captain.
And Mason Mount. Even Mason Mount, I don't think he's having the strongest season. He's possibly, I'd possibly argue Mason Mount's one of these players. I think maybe there's a little bit too much hype about. And I'd love him to prove me wrong. I'd love him to have an absolutely storming season for Chelsea next year as they cruise to a Premier League title.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea are always going to be a danger in the Premier League there because they've got the money backing. He's not splashing the cash like he was in the early days, but Abramovich is always there to make £100 million signing if they want. I saw an article today linking them with Haaland. If they signed Haaland, they're Premier League contenders instantly.
Well, they've had a problem for years now over getting a prolific striker. I mean, Werner was the answer, but he hasn't been the answer so far. Like, will he be the answer under Tuchel? I mean, we're going a little bit off topic there, but that's Chelsea. I mean, I can honestly see Mason Mount being maybe a future Chelsea captain if he gets a few good games under his belt. One player who could potentially be classed in the overrated department, Ross Barkley, has a good few games and then completely drops off.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, Barkley he's got a good few England caps here, but we haven't even discussed him.
Yeah.
And this discussion about he's 27, so he's not a young English star, but a player that had so much potential, never really reached it, and I think he's probably a player on a downward trajectory. Even if he gets a little bit more form, he's on a downward trajectory compared to many of these players up and coming.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like, he has a good few games and all of a sudden he just can't be arsed, as far as I can see anywhere. Like, I think there was calls from on Sky Sports the other week to drop him, as if he just can't be bothered to play anymore.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there, Carl. Anyway, mate, I really appreciate you joining us today to discuss the future of England, the future stars, and all that. And come the Euros, come the next World Cup, we'll see how many of the people that we've named is actually in the team, mate.
Yeah, a lot can change. There'll be a star that we haven't even thought about today who'll come through, and unfortunately, a lot of players we have talked about will fade and not reach the potential. But overall, I think England's future's looking good. There's some good young players coming through, and I think they've got the right manager in place, and let's just hope they can convert that into some success on the pitch.
Hopefully there is a lot of potential there. Let's just hope that we can, like you say, convert it. But cheers for joining us, Carl. Really appreciate it, man.
No problem, anytime.